Hi, this is my review of the Allen&Heath ZED 420 console. This won't be a typical technical review because I just want to speak about my experience while looking for a console, because I saw that the majority, I would say all the models, are very dependent today on the modern home studio oriented marketing. And I want to speak about my experience while using the console, about my impressions on the preamp section and on the EQ section, and in general about what I think is the quality of this product. I'm not new to audio. I've been working as professional producer and sound engineer for like 4 years already, and I'm used to work with high-level analog equipment. I'm normally use the NEath 1073 preamp, the SSL stereo bass compressor. I have the Universal Audio LA 610 channel strip, so I know more or less how good equipment sounds. The problem is that I live in a country where if you don't have a console, you don't have a recording studio. People recognize a studio by the console, and for like all the time of my professional activity I was trying to fight this fashion. And I know that I completely lost the war and capitulated, because even the artists that were brave enough as to work with me without having a console in the studio, they were looking at my studio as it's something weird, which saying like, okay, it sounds fine, the guy knows how to work, that he attends me well, but I would feel myself a bit more important if the studio had a console, because then I can make my photo with the console, and well, people might look at me as a professional artist, at least more professional than I am. Well, when you're trying to, for example, I didn't have like 14,000 euros to spend on the, I think is the, I might say according to reviews, the cheapest professional grade console, which is Audient consoles, and from there you can go like to 200,000 euros. I understand where's the quality, but I don't have this money, let's say. And in the mid-level, I would say, console, which are, I don't know why, normally intended for live sound, you have the Soundcraft stuff, you have the Allen&Heath, you have the more studio-oriented Toft Audi designs. And the decision was difficult because on the Allen&Heath, for example, stuff, the reviews are not good. You have, I would say, from the ZED series, this is the most expensive console. Then you have the 24-channel version and the 32-channel version. Then you have the R16 console, which is the 16-channel recording mixer with a FireWire connection. And you have the biggest console, which is the GSR 24 and 24M with motorized faders. This console is also can be connected via FireWire to the computer. But even this expensive console that costs like 5,600 euros, and it goes like to 7,000 of the console plus the power supply, it's written in the company website that it is a solution for a busy project studio. It's even a solution for a home studio, and it's not intended for professional use. So for example, if I even had the 7,000 euros to buy the great looking big console, I would be afraid, because you know, if it's written like project studio, I don't know what quality it might have, because I know that the GSR24 has the same channel strips as the R16, which are a little better than the channel stripping installed in this console. You have a better EQ, better in some cases, because the only thing I see that is added is the EQ control on the two mid controls. And I would say that according to the fashion today, the preamp might be the same, or a little bit better, but well, I decided to buy this console. This is my first console. I also wanted to try and to understand why all the professional studios use consoles, and what is different between, for example, the pen control on a console and the pen control inside the program. Well, I found the difference. Now I understand why all the studios use consoles. First thing what I tried to do when I received the console here at the studio, I connected an Shure SM57 microphone to the preamp, directly to the preamp, and sent the signal to the mono main output, and to the program. The first thing that we noticed is that even before listening to the real sound quality, I always try to feel what emotions the sound that produces the preamp make me feel. For example, I think that the emotional part in every stage of the production is very important, and for me it was important to hear how this preamp transmits my voice, and if it has any or no effect on the, not only on the sound, but on how this voice moves myself, like me or any other people that might listen to it. And we really found, me and my wife that was here, and she is a professional bass player, she knows what to listen for, we were pretty blown away because the sound is very powerful, it's very in your face, it has less depth, for example, less dimension than my really high-end preamps. But I was asking myself, is it so important to have this dimension, because after all the compression and the limiting, and also it might be important to have the sound really in your face from the beginning, but because then it's easier maybe to raise the volume. And the sound was beautiful for us, really. I compared it to the Neve, and like some days ago I was recording professional singer using the Neve preamp through the console. And I would say in general that this console is fine enough to be used in a professional environment, because I consider my studio to be professional, and I'm getting here one of the best, I would say, results in Spain. And the preamp really proved to be very useful. We tried it on bass guitar, electric bass guitar, on acoustic guitars, on Spanish guitars, on different vocals, and the sound was great, really. Next, I will speak about the EQ section, which is a very important part. The difference between this EQ section, as I said, and of the most expensive console of Allen&Heath, the GSR24, is that the EQ there has Q control on the two mid controls of the high mid and low mid. Here you have a high frequency control, which responds, I think, to 12 kilohertz. You have the high mid control, which has a selection of frequencies and goes up to 15K, beyond the control of the highs. You have the low mid, which goes lower than the control of the low frequencies, which is intended to control only 80 hertz. And using the low mid, you can go as down as to 35 hertz. So using this small EQ section, you control all the spectrum. And I found it it's pretty aggressive. You have to make small amounts, but you really have to work hard to make this EQ sound bad, because the already intended Q control and the selection of frequencies, how it responds to the different frequencies, to me it's beautiful. You have added very pretty high quality air to vocals, clarity to vocals. You can add the same to acoustic guitars, to Spanish guitars. The same for drums. It's really easy to dial in and take out the boing sound of the snare drum, the harmonics. The lows control also, to me, is correct, of course. 80 hertz is a correct frequency. You touch it pretty much times. What more can I say? The construction to me is good. The only maybe thing is the plastic cheeks, the plastic sides. I replaced them with wooden sides that I made myself, because unfortunately this console does not have as good name, and people only will see the red sides and say, you use a cheap console. Well, it's not as cheap. It does not sound cheap, I would say. you may find some difficulties. At the beginning, I didn't understand why these consoles are intended for live and the GSR-24 is intended for studio. I was thinking that it's only because of the quality. Now I understand that these motors lack some of the connection that you may need. You don't have as much, for example, connections for monitoring, and all the auxiliary outs resulted to be some to mono, and you cannot use this to connect your monitors, nothing. But the construction is great. You have some small, like these two buttons are not so centered inside the holes. I don't know, some small stuff is, if you really understand and know what to look for in the technical construction, in the mechanical construction, you might see that it's not an Neve console, of course. But the sound is great. Until now, and didn't make any noises, any problems. The faders move well. All the controls are clear. You understand them very easily. I never used the console, and in the first day, I just understood what goes where. And I think this console can be used for pretty high-level recording. It's not considered to be professional, but I think it is professional. Of course, you have to gain stage well all the parameters. You must not, like, I don't know, just saturate in any control. If you don't want to, you have to find the spot on the instrument, you have to do all the stuff, but once you find the sound of the instrument, the way that this console transmits the sound to the recording medium is totally correct. You have the preamp, for example, I noticed on guitars that the highs, even without EQ, are very accurate. What the guitar has, it goes to the computer. The lows, the same. The lows are not muddy here, are very clean. So in general, I would recommend this console. If it's your first console or not first console, I would recommend this thing as a recording console for a studio, mixing console. And I'm very happy with this console, really. This was my review of the allen&heath ZED 420 recording mixer, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the review.